Okay, hello everybody. This is Tracy. I'm the community manager from One Block, and after our Polkadot Hackathon Bangkok station, it's just like 2 weeks past. But we warmly welcome the team that enter finals, also win the first prize. Last year in Hong Kong, is Richard, the co-founder from Xcavate. So Richard, could you be able to introduce yourself and Xcavate?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Tracy. I can't believe it's been a year, but my name is Richard Holdsworth. I'm the CTO and co-founder of Xcavate. And we are, the idea behind Xcavate is that we believe that global real estate should be accessible and affordable for everyone. And the way we do that is through a modular protocol that delivers trustless tokenized real estate assets.
So before you start this project, what did you do? What really inspires you to make Xcavate?
That's quite a journey, but there's a few things that happened in my life that were sort of core elements that went on to build this idea. One of those was my sister became homeless, so that was quite a shock to the family, and through no fault of her own, she became priced out of the marketplace because the prices had gone up, and her landlord basically said, we want to do something with the property. You're given a couple of months' notice, and basically she ended up homeless. So that was quite a shock, and that sort of led me to think that there needs to be a better way for people to be able to rent properties, the way landlords interact with properties, the way people buy and invest in properties. So later on, when I heard about blockchain, I thought the two can be combined and we can find a better way of doing things, a more transparent way, a way that's where incentives are aligned with all the different parties, and something where the sort of product market fit in regards to the way real estate is built and financed. I think there's a better way of doing it. We're involving more of a community rather than sort of the way it's traditionally been done with a lot of centralized entities.
Then, what's the difference you think that Web3 can bring?
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of people, my friends and my family, don't really understand the journey of Web 1, Web 2, Web 3, and what it actually means to everyone. So I think Web 3 will be a transition, probably more of a subtle transition for a lot of people, where they have more ownership of the data. They have more control, and there's less power in the hands of the few, and it's more distributed across the many. So that's where I see Web3 making a big advantage into the way we interact with the internet. It'll be more secure, it'll be more distributed, and it'll be more democratized.
Then, based on the history of the currency, why you think digital currency is important, is urgent?
So when you look back in history, I mean, it depends how far you want to go back. But if we go back, say, sort of several hundred years, when we had the likes of the Dutch, who had the global currency at the time, they developed the idea of a corporation, so these sort of company entities. They sort of created the idea of the gilt. The guilder being the global currency, and the idea of this asset that has value is changed over time, and unfortunately, history shows us that it used to be backed by precious metals. Then with fiat currency, there's nothing backing a fiat currency at all. So governments are just printing more and more money and debasing the currency. So therefore, when something like Bitcoin came along, where you've got this totally decentralized asset, this store of value that governments can't control, it was a revolution, and I think we're now set with the advancements in smart contracts that's taken this digital asset to another level. And then with the advancement of Polkadot and then on to Jam, it's going to mean that there's even more that's capable with regards to digital assets. And I think it's only a matter of time before pretty much everything in the world is tokenized at some point, because it will be much more efficient, much easier for people to hold these digital assets, and much more liquid. They can exchange that value much easier, much quicker.
Then yeah, it's very easy to hold digital asset, but like considering for the like real estate, like there have a lot of laws and regulations in different regions are different, like how that what should be involved in the RWA.
It's very important that regulations are investigated and looked into each individual region, because it is quite different in a lot of regions. There are some countries where you need to be a resident of that country to own real estate in that country. There are other countries where the rule of law allows anyone to be able to invest in real estate. So yeah, what we've done is we've picked apart what we know of the real estate industry in the UK and many other jurisdictions and regions around the world, and created this modular framework that then what we can do is tweak the elements of it to make it compliant in different regions. That was very important when we were thinking about the architecture.
Okay, it's just some regions that already had some rules and regulations can get the real estate, part of the real estate.
Yeah, the issue has been how to digitize it and still remain regulatory compliant. And we're actually one of the first organizations that allow the creation of digital assets for, in relation to real estate to be regulated in the UK. So we've just passed or been accepted onto what's called the FCA sandbox, which is like the SEC but in the UK. So we're really excited about that.
Does UK allow like foreign buyers? No? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So the way we've made this possible in a really simple way is creating an SPV, a special purpose vehicle, which is a legal wrapper that owns the property. And then any person from any part of the world can then be a shareholder in that SPV through a token. So that gives the legal framework, the regulatory framework, and control within a tokenized system.
Then talking about like holding shares, so what's really like I can own like partially of a property, like we can have a community owned real estate, but like what opportunities it can bring?
So ordinarily, the only way that you'd be able to buy real estate is either if you had a large amount of money and you had that capital to deploy in one go, so on one property, or you entered into some kind of fund. So you put your money into a fund that is managed by another entity, and then they go out and purchase the properties. But we thought there needs to be a better way that removes a lot of these intermediaries that add cost, they add complexity, and they add time. So what we've created is the ability for each token holder to have a share of the real estate. So it could be, for ease of calculation, let's say there's 100 different shares. So each share represents 1% of that real estate, that property. And it's not the building, it's actually an individual, say, 2-bed apartment that then is rented out, and the person who owns that token then gets their share of the rental income, less the fees of the letting agent that actually manages that property.
Nice. So all that can be like customized and enabled in smart contract, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the great thing is that the token holders have actually got the ability to vote on every stage of that any major decision regarding that property. I mean, all these are new builds, so they're brand new properties. So there's a point of truth that we've verified the construction of the real estate, and it's been done to the standards of that region, and it's been signed off. And then what happens is the same sort of kind of contracts that would happen in the real world in terms of renting the property out. There's a digital contract, a smart contract that is signed with the token holders and the person renting the property through the letting agent.
Nice. Then why do you choose like Polkadot ecosystem?
Great question. So we looked around at the time. I was reviewing Ethereum and a few L2s. And what I found was that the flexibility and the interoperability of smart contracts on their own was not going to be enough to set ourselves apart and make our offering and our product and our service as broad as it needs to be, because ideally what we want to do is revolutionize the whole of the real estate life cycle, from land registration, land purchases, the construction, the planning process as well, the construction process, and onto the finished property, and then the management of property. I mean, that's our ultimate goal.
Yeah, like I think either today or yesterday I read news saying like Kusama's TPS is like 80,000 something, like it's tier 1, yeah, right now. So.
It's incredible. So we've tried, or a team has tried to force Kusama to fall over, to sort of to be sort of put to its ultimate test, and it's passed with flying colours. And Kusama is not just a canary network; it's a live network in itself, but it replicates what Polkadot is capable of. So it's really exciting times.
Okay, then talking about like your like Xcavate, what's the key features that you think really make your like project outstanding? Like, yeah.
There's a few things. So initially, the only way, so it's trustless and permissionless first and foremost. So the only way for a real estate developer who has a finished property to list can actually list the property is after they've gone through various checks. So the usual checks are on the individual, so the KYC and AML process, because we're dealing with a security. And then the company itself normally owns the property, so they would have to go through KYB, and then AML, so the anti-money laundering. But what we also do is we do a number of checks on the asset itself prior to the minting process, whereas a lot of smart contracts, they will mint a token representing the property, and then do the checks after. But what we wanted to make sure is nothing can be listed on the marketplace until it's gone through those checks. So there's a check on the construction of the property. There's a check on the planning permissions. There's a check on the price, the real world price of that asset. So the property owner might say it's worth $300,000, but how do you know that when you're coming onto the marketplace? So we've created an algorithm that checks all of the properties in the geographic area of this particular property with similar or the same attributes. So then you can get a lower and an upper banding of this kind of price range, which is exactly what happens in the real world with agents. But there aren't any agents. It's purely a real estate developer wanting to list their property, but prior to that happening, all these checks are done. And then once that process has happened and the real estate is listed, then the token holders can then, the tokens are then on sale, and people can purchase however many tokens they want by looking at the property details. And it looks very similar to Zillow or Rightmove, where all of the details about that particular property are available. It's all very transparent, and then they choose the property that they would want to invest in that gives them the best kind of yield. And then the legal process happens all in the background. And once all that has happened, then the token holder is then the legal owner of that property. And then later on, they've got the ability to vote, as I mentioned, on any sort of a crucial element of the running of the property, which is totally unique. No one else out there is doing that kind of thing, where ultimately it creates each property like its own DAO. So, and then the token holders can relist their tokens at any time. And we're looking at actually having the ability for the protocol to come in as a buyer of last refusal. So if you imagine you're a token holder and you want to resell your token and there's no buyers, rather than you wait, the protocol can put in an offer of, say, on the sort of lower band, and then buy back the tokens, and then and immediately relist those tokens, and then other people can then buy them, and then that creates liquidity in the market, and then creates an off ramp for any token holders that want to resell. So we're trying to think of the whole process rather than just tokenization.
Then what's the plans, like either technical plans or marketing plans in the future for Xcavate?
So what happens with regards to us being on the FCA sandbox, the regulator has specified that we can operate with a maximum of 100 properties within a 6 months period to test all of the technical aspects of the application, and making sure that the investors are protected at every stage and all of the risks are managed. So once we're out of that 6 month period, we're looking to launch at the beginning of Q2 next year. So then there's a 6 month period where we're within the sandbox. By end of sort of Q3 next year, we're looking to expand into a different region, and then have a different region every year for the next few years until we've dominated the global market in all the areas, like, other parts of Europe, Dubai, and Asia. So we're looking for Hong Kong, Singapore, Australia, all those sort of areas.
Then last, as a former the first prize winner, do you have any suggestions or anything to say to our developers that probably you're going to attend our next hackathon?
Firstly, just do it. Just enter into any hackathon, because it's really good fun. It's really well organized as well. The one from One Block was amazing. We had a really good team, established team, so we didn't need to build a team. So I would just recommend, if you've got an idea, it's very important to have a very clear idea on what you want to build, and then get a good team together with the right skill sets. And then I would focus on trying to solve a real world problem, and trying to showcase interoperability of the Polkadot SDK if you can. I think that's how we sort of edged our project over other projects and became the winners. But it's good fun. I'd highly recommend it to anyone.
Yes. So thank you, Richard. So we're looking forward to maybe seeing you next year. If we have another hackathon, we would like to see you probably offline somewhere. Okay.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. We have lots of good ideas, so we look forward to that.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Xcavate. See you.
Thanks, Tracy.